Welcome viewers, top focus at this hour. Venezuela is entering one of the most uncertain chapters in its history after the United States carried out a dramatic military operation capturing President Nicolás Maduro and openly declaring its intention to shape the country's future. Now, US President Donald Trump has said Washington will effectively run Venezuela until what he calls a safe and a proper transition of power takes place. However, on the ground, Maduro's allies remain firmly in control. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodríguez has been sworn in as the interim president, rejecting US claims and insisting that Maduro remains the country's only legitimate leader. In fact, this has set up a direct Trump versus Rodríguez standoff as tensions continue to escalate between the US and Venezuela. Now, viewers, while Donald Trump claims that US officials are in touch with Rodríguez and that she is willing to cooperate, Rodríguez has publicly accused the US of attempting to turn Venezuela into a colony. She's even vowed to defend the country's sovereignty at this point. And viewers, at the heart of this crisis lies oil, Venezuela's most valuable asset. Donald Trump has opened Donald Trump has openly said US oil companies will move into Venezuela to fix damaged infrastructure, extract oil and then sell it globally. Remember, Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, though much of it is heavy crude that requires advanced refining, something that US firms are well equipped to handle. But of course, the future is far from settled at this point. Venezuela's government has accused the US of trying to seize its strategic resources and destroy its political independence. Trump, meanwhile, has warned that further military action remains an option if needed. Now, globally, the reaction has been sharply divided. You have Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Colombia, Brazil, all condemning the US action as a violation of international law and the sovereignty of Venezuela. The United Nations too has expressed a deep concern over the breach of international norms in this case. But European leaders have taken a more cautious line. They have rejected Maduro's legitimacy but also warning against unlawful intervention. So viewers, as Venezuela stands at this crossroads, the key question remains: will this lead to a genuine transition of power or push the country deeper into geopolitical confrontation with oil, influence and sovereignty at the center of a global power struggle?
How will the present dispensation in Venezuela? Okay, it has been decapitated, but the regime is there, the Maduro regime, the leftist regime, the socialist regime, which is one big objective of Trump to take out. So that regime remains, as well as the Venezuelan army remains, right? And the army has also pledged and continues to pledge its loyalty to Maduro, or in his absence to the political regime that he had. So how does Trump navigate this versus what he says that America will run Venezuela now for some time? Quickly, I'll take a few shots at how I think he's going to try and run. One is, of course, a blockade so that no weapons or anything can come in by sea or ship or air from China or Russia. In any case, they're not coming, so that's out. He is going to put together a team, as he said, which I highly suspect and will be staffed with people, senior executives of the oil industry. You know, the oil industry, be it Exxon, Chevron, Shell, etc., they have huge experience in going into countries, overthrowing the governments, making out deals and getting in and stitching deals together and projects together. So it will be the staff, the so-called team, and headed by Rubio, by the way. Rubio, in fact, is being said to be the viceroy, quote unquote, for Venezuela, because, of course, he has deep knowledge of the region. He is himself the son of Cuban immigrants and very anti-dictatorship, leftist, socialist in this region, which includes Cuba also, Venezuela, and now also Colombia.
It's been a set-piece military operation, I'll actually call it. And it needs to be studied in depth for the other armies of the world also, because the foremost component of this operation was intelligence, and working on the intelligence was extremely important. Knowing the exact whereabouts of Maduro, his daily routine, his the entire layout of this palace, I think that was replicated. I believe the entire like a film studio is actually made. A similar kind of an exercise was carried out by the Americans. They replicated the entire palace and they knew exactly where they had to go, because in 30 minutes, no special force of the world can execute this operation the way the Delta Force of the United States has done it. Second is that the stealth and secrecy of the operation. Nobody got a wind of this operation. It was being planned in months in advance. Very a few people in the Trump administration were actually knowing this kind of operation will take place. So, stealth and secrecy is one another important aspect. And a third and the foremost aspect is that uh, exfiltration. You can in a military in operation you can infiltrate, but to exfiltrate along with that target of yours, and Maduro in question and his wife, they were able to exfiltrate without any opposition, and they were able to buy out everybody. I think there is a footprint of Mossad also in this operation. If I remember correctly, Netanyahu had a meeting with President Trump a few days back. So I think those finer details would have been tied up, and I'm definitely sure of Mossad involvement. And why I'm actually saying is because Hezbollah has been operating uh, in Venezuela for a number of years, right from 1990s, and they have their training camps in Margaretella Island, in Caracas, outskirts and all, and American intelligence was aware of it, and Iranian operational drones had also been supplied to the Venezuelans. So that Hezbollah Venezuela connection was also very, very apparent. And that is why I have a suspicion that Mossad was involved in the entire operation.
The response has been sort of well calibrated over a period of time. And there was not immediate response from China. Russians were the first to condemn it and call it outright military aggression. The closest ally, United Kingdom, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he's yet to establish facts and that he will speak to President Trump. Only European Union, the top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, she was the only one who said that Maduro had no legitimacy to rule. Even she didn't openly support Delta Force operation in that sense. So gradually, more and more responses have been coming. And yes, China has also now clearly called it as an aggression and saying that this should not have happened, etc. But let's remember that President Maduro, the last meeting he had before he was picked up by Delta Force of United States was with a Chinese envoy. And of course, China has a large footprint in, Venezuela. China is largest importer of Venezuelan oil. Belt and Road Initiative has led to FDI of about 60 billion plus. So, it has major stakes. And now once you see American companies going out and taking control of Venezuelan oil, which is the fundamental reason why this whole exercise has taken place, this would mean that the so-called arrangement of oil on concessional prices because of those FDI loans and investments will first thing disappear, and it could even become uncertain. Also, United States already fairly controls the OPEC, which is exporter for about 50% of global oil. And now this large chunk of Venezuelan oil also coming under United States control would mean US will have enormous control on the rate of production, on the pricing and so on, which could also pinch Chinese because they are the largest importer of oil in that sense. So in many ways, both negative and positive. Some people are also saying this could be sanctioning potential Beijing's operation in Taipei. I'm not sure if that is the kind of thing that Chinese are contemplating, but that's also an interpretation which is visible.